yokai watch? What have I gotten myself into?
Right there with you, kid. Welcome back. As said, this has relatively low requirements, but that's not the whole story. If you want the weapons for Stormblood jobs, Samurai and Red Mage, you will need access to at least one Heavensward zone. This means you will need to be at least level 50 and get up to the point in the MSQ when you get 2 quests, Over the Wall and Onwards and Upwards, which will give you access to F.A.T.E.s Western Highlands and Sea of Clouds respectively. Now this is the most you can do on the trial account or the starter edition. To reiterate, you cannot get all the weapons and therefore cannot get the Jabanian couch mount on a trial account nor starter edition. You might just get as far as you can on your current account and then upgrade when you can go no further. If you want to complete the event, you will need to have a subscription account and have the Stormblood expansion. You will need to get up to level 60 and up to the MSQ quest Beyond the Great Wall. This will give you access to the fringes, making it possible to obtain everything and complete the event. Okay, that just makes it possible. Additionally, there are things you will want to unlock as you go that will make it a lot easier. At 20, after you have completed The Company You Keep, you can do the quest My Little Chocobo, which allows you to use mounts. This quest will be available in your Grand Company headquarters and requires a small amount of Grand Company seals. You can't get any jobs until you complete the MSQ quest, Sylph Management. Getting to 30 allows you to use yokai weapons. This is also when the starting classes and rogue can pick up relevant job quests, assuming you completed your class quests. At 30, you will want to head down to Camp Tranquil in the South Shroud to do the quest My Feisty Little Chocobo. This allows your chocobo to fight alongside you and or heal you, which can be very helpful in Fates, especially if you are alone. If you have access to housing, you will want to do the next quest, Bird in Hand, which allows you to feed and train your chocobo at stables. Getting to 50 will allow you to start the Stormblood jobs, Samurai and Red Mage, and completing the ultimate weapon will unlock flight in A Realm Reborn zones. Being able to fly can be very helpful and practically required when the zone is full of other people who can fly. The first Heavensward zone you can unlock flight in is F.A.T.E.s Western Highlands, which will require completing Purple Flame in the MSQ. Additionally, you will need to complete several blue quests and find all the Aether Currents in the zone. Getting to 60 will allow you to begin Shadowbringer's jobs, so you can actually use the weapons for Dancer and Gunbreaker. Though the first zone you have access to is the Fringes, the first Stormblood zone you can unlock flight in will be the Ruby Sea, and that requires getting at least through the MSQ quest Tide Goes In, Imperials Go Out. You will also need to complete several blue quests and find all the Aether Currents in the zone. Okay, to reiterate, complete Fates wearing your yokai watch in any of the applicable zones, and you have a 100% chance to acquire a yokai medal that can be used to purchase yokai minions. Complete Fates with a specific yokai minion summoned in the zones listed in the medallion for that specific yokai, and you will have roughly a 25% chance to obtain specific legendary medals that can be used to purchase specific yokai weapons. So you purchase all the minions and weapons from Nohi, the Wandering Executive. To briefly show you how things have changed from the previous version of this event, your first minion was 1 medal, then the next 2 were 3 medals, and then every few would cost more, for a total of 77 yokai medals for all 13 minions. This time the first one is still 1, but everything after is only 3 for a total of 49 medals for 17 minions. You can only purchase each minion once, and it will disappear from the list when you purchase it. Don't forget to use the minion in your inventory to collect it. Now with weapons. Originally, the first cost 7 legendary medals, and then gradually rose until the last few jumped up to 30. The worst part of this was coming back to Nohi, thinking you could buy your next weapon, only to find out you needed several more. Now the first is 5 medals, and the rest are only 10. The thing about the weapons is you can purchase them more than once. You should find some way to keep track of which ones you have. This is one reason I suggest starting with the first yokai and working your way through the list. However, this made more sense last time when the weapons were on one list. Now they are divided into Disciples of War and Disciples of Magic. The weapons cannot be repurchased from the Recompense Officer nor the Calamity Salvager, so if you lose one, you will have to grind out the medals again to replace it, but this is only an option for as long as the event lasts. I personally recommend putting away the weapons in the armoire as soon as you get them. When the event first launched, the 4 new weapons could not go in the armoire. This has been changed in patch 5.31. On the other hand, keeping the weapons in your inventory might help you keep track of which ones you have. Something else you might do is not purchase any weapons until you have enough medals for all of them. Just make sure you get them before the event ends. Once you purchase any 13 minions, or any 13 weapons, or all 17 weapons, you earn a mount. You pick up these mounts from Jonathas in Olgerdania. Select Accept Achievement Rewards, Quest, and then claim the item. Then find the item in your inventory and use it. Notice the icon for the Jabanian mount is the same as the icon for yokai medals. Don't confuse them, though having a huge stack of 1 might make it quite clear. This event has you grinding pre-existing content, F.A.T.e.s, or Full Active Time Events, which are these blue circles with pink symbols that randomly appear on the map. These might be compared to dynamic events in Guild Wars 2 or the rifts in Rift. You can only get medals in applicable zones, which is almost everywhere, so let's list off the non-applicable zones. The zones you cannot fake grind for this are Mordona, Northern Thanalan, Eastern Lenosha, Kurthis Central Highlands, and any of the Shadowbringers zones, any instanced zone like Diadem or Eureka, and of course any zone where F.A.T.e.s don't normally appear, like cities. On the map, you can hover over F.A.T.e.s and see the name, what level they are, how much time is left, and what percentage of it is complete. To participate, enter the circle. If you are more than a couple levels above the F.A.T.e., you will have to click the level sync button. I don't recommend doing F.A.T.e.s that are more than a couple levels above you. They can be really slow to finish and you risk getting knocked out. If you're in a big group, it might be fine. Here's a handy macro you might use. /level sync is the same as clicking the level sync button on the F.A.T.e., but more responsive. /mount will dismount you. Give it an icon and put it on your bar. You can now use this whenever you enter a F.A.T.e. There are several types of F.A.T.e.s, and understanding them will help you farm medals more effectively. The most basic is the Slay Enemies F.A.T.e., where you just go in and slay enemies. In many of these, monsters spawn the entire time, and killing a certain number will fill the bar and end the F.A.T.e. There are also ones where only a fixed number of enemies will spawn. You may be almost done and don't see any targets, and the last guy is hiding behind a tree or a whole group is behind a building somewhere. Then there are the Notorious Monsters, or boss F.A.T.e.s. These mostly involve taking down one big enemy. Usually the completion bar is tied to the boss's health, however many of them have adds or smaller monsters. These usually do not need to be killed to complete the F.A.T.e., but they can overwhelm you, especially if they continue to spawn. Other variations involve defeating a bunch of smaller monsters before the boss shows up, and there are ones that have 2 bosses or more, which each fill part of the bar. Keep in mind that some boss F.A.T.e.s are quite soloable, while for some you might want a party, and some even require several groups. Defense F.A.T.e.s usually have some sort of stationary object or several objects, or even NPCs that you must protect. If all are destroyed, you fail the F.A.T.e. Like Slay Enemy F.A.T.e.s, they end when a certain number of enemies are killed. Sometimes you may not even know there was something to defend. The duty description will usually show you how many objects there are and how many are left. You should try to get enmity, or aggro, on as many monsters as you can handle, so these are often best done as a tank. Escort F.A.T.e.s are kind of like defense F.A.T.e.s, except you are moving along with an NPC you are protecting. These end when the NPC reaches their destination. Collection F.A.T.e.s are probably the most complicated and frustrating. These F.A.T.e.s have one particular item you need to collect. It is either dropped by F.A.T.e. mobs or is picked up off the ground. It stays in your key items inventory until the F.A.T.e. is over. You need to give these to a nearby NPC to complete the fate. Once the bar is full, you have 1 minute to turn in any remaining items. The number of items you turn in will be shown in the fate description in the duty list. I don't know if it's universal, but I think if you get at least 7, you'll be golden. While most fates begin on their own, many are started by talking to an NPC. This is how you start escort fates, but I believe they can be almost any type. These NPCs don't have a visible timer, but they do have a limited time before they disappear. Fates also come in series, where one fate will start almost immediately after another. They usually involve 2 or 3 fates, but can be as many as 13. The fates in a series can vary by type, but they usually end in a boss fight of some kind, and will give you an achievement and often some other reward. Each fate in a series can give you medals, so completing the whole series can be very helpful. So what job should you use? First priority should be whatever job you are trying to level, keeping in mind what level they are and what they can handle. Don't think you are going to grind level 60 fates on your level 10 blue mage. Getting gold rating is usually not hard, but can be if you are solo and late to the fate. Your primary goal should be to get as many monsters on your aggro table as possible and do as much damage as you can. That doesn't mean you necessarily want everything attacking you though, just on your list. Having instant cast abilities gives you quite an advantage here. I would say this makes Black Mage one of the worst, as most of their abilities have a cast time. Dancer is probably the best, as all of their attacks are instant, and they have spammable, untargeted AoEs at low levels. They can just stand in the middle of mobs and spam endlessly. Physical range are good in general because they can just sit back and tab target, getting a quick hit on each enemy. Healers and summoners aren't bad because they all have an instant cast dot they can put on multiple targets. If there are others just slaughtering everything with AoEs, you can just stand back and tab target, applying dots to as many targets as you can, and you also have heals to save you if you start to take damage. Tanks are great because if they pull aggro, they have a good chance of surviving. Paladins and Dark Knights have untargeted spammable AoEs. There's been a lot of talk about how Blue Mage just destroys everything in its path. This can be true, but also misleading. What a blue mage can do depends greatly on what spells they have, and they get nothing automatically. They can obtain a few spells that make killing things really quick, like Missile and Doom, and some good AoEs like Dragon's Voice and Ram's Voice. However, if you don't have those, you will probably be stuck whittling things down with Water Cannon. Also, many Fate bosses are immune to Missile and Doom. Stock up. Have your FC activate one of the Heat of the Battle actions to boost XP gains. You can also get the Squadron Battle Manual from Squadron missions. These overwrite the FC action with a higher boost, but only last 2 hours. Buy stacks of buff foods for a 3% experience boost. These can have significant buffs that aid you in combat, but it'd just be cheaper to get a bunch of eggs or raisins. Be sure to have plenty of Gisel, Gisal?
Gisel greens.
Thank you. To summon your chocobo, and also his favorite buff greens. Potions can be useful in a pinch. Pick up hunt bills. You shouldn't be seeking these out, but just get them if you happen to see them for some more XP, seals, and money. A fate may even have the same monster that's on your bill. Equip the best gear you have, but if you still need yokai medals, equip the yokai watch in your wrist slot. Use any gear that gives you an experience bonus. You do get the bonus experience when you are synced down to the appropriate level. It is better to be a job than a class. Job crystals give you a slight boost to your stats even when synced to low levels. Make sure your minion is summoned before you get into a fate, as you can't summon in combat. Get a party. Though this is quite doable solo, having a party helps a lot. This makes it easier to get gold credit, healing chocobos will heal other party members, and it makes healing and buffing others easier and more effective. And use Discord or some other app to coordinate this effort. Probably the best way to get a party is to go to the zone you plan to work in and use Shout to let everyone know you are looking for a group. Be courteous. If you are sure you have credit and other people are joining the fate, back off a little so they can also get credit. If you see someone die, res them, if and when you can. Though in normal situations, it is often considered rude to spontaneously invite people to groups. In the midst of world combat situation, it's practically expected. If you see someone struggling in a fate, don't be afraid to invite them. If someone invites you, for example when you're taking on a major boss, it might be in your best interest to accept it. You can always leave if you have a problem with the group. In many Fates, there are NPCs that help you out, but not always as much as you would like. As a tank, you might try pulling monsters off the NPCs so they last longer and can help you more. NPCs can actually make quite a bit of progress on their own, even completing some Fates. If you ever find a Fate partially completed but no players are around, possibly the NPCs did it but then were killed off. If a Fate for a particular achievement or reward is up, use Shout to let people in the zone know and maybe start a party. This is especially important for certain boss Fates, like Odin or Coral Regina, as they don't appear on the map unless you are nearby. Command right-click or Control right-click in Windows on the map to place a flag. Use a flag tag to share the flag with others. Use the F.A.T.e.s tag to share your position with others. You can put items on your action bars to help you keep track of how many you have without having to check your inventory. Use this to track the metal you are working on, or even the items for collection Fates. The medallion shows you how many of each metal you currently have in your inventory. Watch your company seals, and if you're on a trial, watch your gil. If you hit the cap, any additional will disappear into the nether. Or was it the aether? I forget. When there are no Fates up, or none at your level, wait in a central location and watch the map. In Stormblood zones, look for Fates with an XP bonus for, well, bonus XP. About halfway through any Fate in Stormblood, the Forlorn Maiden may appear. If you defeat it before you complete the Fate, you get a buff that will give you bonus XP on the next Fate you complete. Multi-seat mounts can be helpful if you have people in your party that can't fly yet. Select your next Fate carefully. Check the time left and percentage complete before traveling to the other end of the map. The type may also give you an idea of how long it will last. If you get killed, strangely you can use Shout while dead, so you can politely shout for a res. If you must return, try to get back to the same zone quickly. I think if you are in the same zone when the Fate ends, you will get credit. Finally, if you are going to be in the same zone for a while, set your home nearby. The legendary medals are based on the medals you get from yokai when you befriend them in the game and in the show. The first cutscene you see on the quest is actually a reenactment of a scene from the first episode of the TV show, as well as the first game. Well-heeled essentially means wealthy, but originated as a cockfighting term, referring to having spurs that would help a cock win a fight. The poor-heeled youth lost in Lord of Verminion, a game where you use your minions to battle other players' minions, and like other Monster Collection games, like Pokemon, is often compared to cockfighting. Whenever a crossover event comes back, there will be many calls to expand and add to the event. In that light, this is a clear upgrade compared to the previous version. I think this may be the first collaboration to come back with new items. It is a grind, but that has been reduced, maybe too much. I personally would prefer the event was completable in A Realm Reborn zones. However, I understand that encouraging people to subscribe and purchase the expansions is important, and this way it kind of keeps people grinding in all zones. If this event ever comes back, I wish there was more to the gameplay than just Fate grinding. Actually having to find yokai out in the world, interacting with NPCs would be more satisfying. Tribes are mentioned, but don't come into play. Maybe those could be implemented somehow. When you complete 2 of the major achievements, you get storyline cutscenes. There is no way to replay these currently. In general, the unending journey needs to be more complete and contain all cutscenes. It would be convenient if we could summon yokai minions from the medallion. Also, please include Blue Mage. Anyways, thank you for watching, and thank you to Electra Ninja and Backwater J for participating in Fate grinding. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in part 3.